are both deceased now. They didn't get a retirement, so I have this need to want to enjoy my life in the present moment. And so personal finance is one of those things that is very interesting to me, because when you have all your stuff together, it's really good, and when you don't, it's not so good. And I was in a place where it was not so good. I went through a divorce where the year before I divorced, I decided to cut my salary in half and go teach. And then I found myself in a place where I was like, oh my goodness, now I have to figure out this money thing. And so I found some resources that helped me, and that's really the foundation of this presentation, is an aggregate of various sources, and I don't stop learning. In fact, I'm probably going to learn something from one of you today, and I hope you guys take away something, at least one thing. I'm certain you'll take away something. But yeah, if you have any questions or what have you, you can jump into chat and ask those. We have folks who are monitoring that. And with that, this is what we are going to cover today. So basically, I'm going to go through the steps to a lifetime of riches, the money formula, which is going to include a section on money mindset. And then this whole thing is with me in Excel, and that's how I budget. And that budget word, we'll get into it, but it doesn't have to be all bad. I actually really love my budget. I love my budget because it is where I go dream about my vacations and the things I want to do with the money that I am trying to accumulate and have accumulated. So. All right, so we're going to start out here with a poll. So the first thing I want you guys to do, and I believe Gwen is going to pop this up here, is I want to know your current spending situation. Is it that you consciously decide how you spend your money? Do you guesstimate how much you spend and where your money goes? Or do you have some sort of hybrid where you know where some of your money goes, and then you guesstimate at the rest? So I don't know. Here we go. We popped up the poll right there. So if you can vote here, that would be great.
And Sandie, I'll leave this poll up for just a few more seconds to let folks vote.
Yeah.
Then I'll hit
and polling. Several people. Yeah. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. So we have looks like we have almost a split between some folks who coming in who are conscious and hybrid. Okay, so about almost half. A lot of people are hybrid, which is what I would suspect. I was hybrid before I actually started doing my budget in Excel, and so that does not surprise me at all. So thank you guys for that and sharing your current money situation, your spending situation. Okay. All right, I'm going to move on to the next. All right, so let's get into some topics right here. So this all came about whenever, it was back in 2002, and I bought a house and I realized, holy crap, I can't afford this house. And I was like, I need a budget book. And all of the freaking budget books were really books on finances and what to do with all the surplus of cash you have at the end of the month. And I'm like, I don't have any cash at the end of the month. I don't need these books. I need a book that tells me what the heck I can do. And I found this book, All Your Worth, by Elizabeth Warren and her daughter, Amelia. I'm going to move my phone here for just a second. But it's this book, and it's really, really, really old. It was before Elizabeth Warren became a senator. They actually wrote a book before this called The Dual Income Trap. But All Your Worth was the book, and where I'm basically going to give you the premise of this book, and we're going to go through the outline of it. But I highly recommend it because it's what gave me my framework for my budgeting. So Elizabeth and her daughter Amelia outlined 6 steps to a lifetime of riches. And step number 1 is to count all your worth. And we will go through each of these and talk more about what they are in depth. So the next step is to escape the thinking trap. This is where we will get into the mindset discussions, but you definitely have to escape thinking traps in order to succeed. Step 3 is to count the dollars and not the pennies, and I say this all the time. Quit chase the big dollars. Chase the big dollars, not the lattes. That's not big dollars. I'm not going to tell you to quit buying lattes. The fourth step is that you really, if you cannot afford fun, then you really can't afford your life. So I'm also not going to tell you to stop doing things that feed your soul that cost money, because that's not any way to live. And we'll talk about how to get there, right? So step 5 is to build your future by paying off your past. And then the final step is pretty much on building your dreams and how to do that. And we do it one step at a time. How are we doing so far? I am using PowerPoint for the slides. Is Janine's question was what I was using. So, all right, so any questions so far? Count all your worth. That's step number 1. All right, so now I have a question for you guys. Anybody know what the secret to riches is? Anyone take a guess? Take a guess in the chat. Secret to riches. Anything? Any thoughts? Save more than you spend. Valerie says to live below your means. Use your money not to be stressed out. Budget and save. Taking risk. Again, living within your means. Be rich with your friends. Spend some time. Save some. You give some. So you spend, save. Happiness. Live within your means. I'm seeing a lot of good stuff here. Yeah, imagine it. Know your needs versus your wants. Oh, yeah. Okay. This is all good stuff. So basically, the secret to riches is pretty much what Sarah's been promoting on every single one of these meetings, and it's balance, right? It's just balance in understanding, you know, your risk, your know yourself, and balancing out things, right? So we have balance in everything: work, play, sleep, exercise. I tell my 14-year-old all the time, okay, you have to balance out your screen time with not screen time. And it's not good to exercise. Obviously, you can't exercise 24/7, right? So balance is the secret. But exactly what does that mean when it comes to money? Well, there's 3 categories in this strategy. And the balance categories are your must-have, savings, and want. And I think my animation there, yeah, there we go. So, so these are the 3 categories. And this is the 3 categories that if you put in balance, then you can afford your life and you can build to a lifetime of riches. And we're going to talk more about each one of these as we go through. Okay. Okay, now I want to go through a must-have self-test. So this is where we're going to put up another poll. Okay, we're going to go through a series of 7 questions. So hang with me here, but I want you guys to really start thinking about your own stuff. So once Gwen's able to pop the poll up here, then we'll start taking it, and we're going to release the results. You keep track of how many you say are true or false for yourself. Okay, so we'll get that poll up here. There we go. Okay. So the first question is, I worry about having enough money to cover my regular bills, like my electric bill. If this is you, then yep, that's me. And no, you got this covered. I should throw out here that this is a judgment-free zone, because there is not any, things are what they are, facts are facts, and there's no room for judgment. So answering honestly with yourself is going to move the needle for you, and that's what's most important. So, okay, so I think we have a decent amount of folks, and so, yeah, we can share these results. So the most of you were like, nope, I don't really worry about covering my regular bills, and that's great. There's a few that are, and I used to be in that position. I was in that position when I realized, after I bought my first house, and realized that I don't think I can afford this house, at least not the house and everything else. All right, so let's go to number 2. Number 2. So it seems like most of my money goes to things I can't control, like rent or car payments. If that's true for you, vote true.
Hey, Sandy, I just wanted to quickly interject. For everybody taking the poll, this is anonymous, so there's no way that anybody, including the organizers, would see which one you choose.
Thank you, Gwen. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't see who's voting for what. I just see that people are voting. So, awesome. Okay, well, we have a lot of people who have done that. So it looks like 40% is that's true for, and 60% is false. All right. Again, just keep note of how many you have true for you versus not, or versus false, which would be not true. Okay, number 3. By the time I pay my big bills, there's hardly anything left over. Is that true for you? You guys are doing really well. There's a lot of folks in this, and I so appreciate you guys taking the time to be here and also to fill out these polls. This is going to make this discussion even more richer. So awesome. Okay, so here we go. The results. By the time I pay my big bills, most of you guys are like, no, I'm pretty good with that. There's a few of you guys who are like, yeah, there's some room for an improvement because there's not much left. All right, next one. All right, so the cost of living for just the basics. We're talking about housing, cars, insurance, just seems way out of reach. All right, let's see what we got here. Okay, so again, we have most of you guys are like, nope, doesn't apply to me, but a few of you guys there, this does seem, housing is definitely becoming crazier these days for sure. Okay, and I only spend money on things I need, but there still isn't enough. So
Hi, I'm back.
share these results.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Give me 1 second. There we go.
All right, so I think we should be on 6, the next one after this one. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, two more guys. Stay with me. Thank you, Gwen. I appreciate the assistance there. All right, so even though I never buy anything extravagant, I don't have anything in savings. Is that true for you? Do you have savings? Do you have things in savings? Pretty much is the question. You don't necessarily have to buy anything extravagant. You could still just not have things in savings, and it would be true for you. All right. All right, and the last one, I can't think of anything in my budget that I could really cut back on. Is this true for you? That's a tricky question. This is a tricky question. Because if you're doing things, if you're in balance, then you've already done the cutting and there wouldn't be anything left to cut. But all right. Most of you, almost a few of you still left to vote, but I think we're doing pretty good. All right. So this was the last question, and this is the question when I do this poll, this is the question where I get probably the most true returns because there's folks who are like, I don't know where else I can think and cut, right? Okay. Thank you guys for sharing and for all the polls. So what does this mean? Why did I make you guys go through that exercise? I wanted you to start thinking about your own finances and where you currently are. If you answer true for one or more, then you are probably heavy on the must-have. And that's, we're going to talk about the must-haves in this balance formula. But now we're going to move on to the next category, the money category, the wants. So this is just going to be a self-test. I'm not going to go through each individual one like we did for the must-have, but there are 8 questions on the screen, and I'd like for you to just read each one and count how many are true for you. So if you go shopping, you're never quite certain how much you can afford, or when you see something you really want, you just buy it, even if you don't have the money. Can we say swipe the credit card? No. 3, I never know where all the money goes. 4 is I buy things and then after I get them home, I worry about whether I really can afford them. Or 5, do you worry about money sometimes that it takes the pleasure out of actually doing the fun things that you were trying to purchase? 6, you know, those holidays and the birthdays and things come up and you're like, I don't even know if I can afford to spend this. 7, I probably spend too much on clothes or eating out or just going out. And then the bigger one is, hey, I work hard, so I deserve to buy things. If any of those basically are true for you, then you may be overspending in your wants. Okay. How are you guys doing? Poll Everywhere is a great tool. It just causes you to go from another screen or use your phone, which some people may be joining on the phone, but I did actually, when I do this live, I use Poll Everywhere. All right, so now we're going to go through the savings. All right, are you guys still with me? Still hanging in there? Okay. Again, just note how much is true or false for you. I work hard, but I still don't have much in savings. I carry a balance on my credit cards most months. And when I say that, that is, I carry a balance that is not paid in full every month. I don't have a plan for regular savings, or I worry about having enough for retirement. I know there's some folks in this category for sure about retirement. How about this, number 5? Isn't this appropriate for stinking pandemics? If I lost my paycheck for 3 months, I don't know what I would do. Some of you guys have already had to answer that question in real life. Small emergencies like, hey, my car battery died, which did just happen to me. I have to use my credit card or pay the bill off over time. Number 7, I don't have a real plan for saving for college for my children, if you have children. 8, I owe money to a friend or a loved one. And when I make a major purchase, like a sofa, dishwasher, I need to pay an installment. And then number 10, I try to save, but I worry about whether it is enough. Okay. Yeah, so there's some stuff going on in the chat. And Terry, I love your life hack about when you see something, you create your wish list. I've also started to do some of these things like Amazon carts can get really, really dangerous. And so now I've started to put things in my cart and then I don't hit buy for 2 days. And it's a technique that says just another day. and you basically go another day to see if you still need it. And then if you can go another day and another day. And when I started doing this, I realized that most of the time, by day 3, I don't need it anymore. Heck, sometimes 24 hours later, and I don't need it anymore. And it's really interesting because I go put it in my wish list and save for later on Amazon, and then I go back and look at all the junk that I had from years ago, and I'm like, I don't need this stuff. Okay, so when your money is in balance, you will always have enough to pay your bills, have some fun. That is so important, and to save for your dreams. So balance is key, and that's what this whole plan is about. All right. The balanced money formula. You guys ready to see this? Here we go. This is the premise of everything. So your must-have should not be more than 50%. And I say your take-home pay, your net pay. Now, some people, you can go off of gross pay, but I just make it super easy because figuring out gross pay, because insurance and all the stuff that comes out of your paycheck is just too difficult for me. So 50% of my take-home pay goes towards must-have. 30% goes towards wants. And the remaining 20% goes towards savings. Now, notice something in this formula too. If you actually spend 50% or less on your must-haves, 30% on your wants, and 20% on your savings, that equals 100%. Can you guys still hear me? Okay, somebody has just lost audio. Okay, but this equals 100%. Single dollar that you earn or you are given has a job. It is predetermined where it's going to get spent. This is huge for budgeting. If you do not assign a job to every dollar, then this is an area where you can improve. Every dollar needs a job. In my Excel budget formula, I can tell you where every stinking penny I've ever spent has gone, and I started that spreadsheet in 2003. And so it is 2021. I can go back years and see everything. It's kind of cool from a data mining junkie perspective. But that is the money, that's the balance formula. So the key is, if you set aside a specific amount for your wants, then you can break any kind of cycle that you might be in, okay? Any cycle that you're in. Here's the thing with wants. You can spend your wants on anything as long as you stay within 30%. So there was a time when I was married and we wanted to, my partner wanted to go out to dinner, and I'm like, I don't have any wants left. Spend it all. And I was told, I will buy you dinner, get in the car, let's go. And I was like, okay, I cannot judge you for what you want to spend your wants on because it's up to you, okay? So you can spend your wants on anything as long as you stay within 30%. All right. Let's repeat that apparently. I don't know. Okay, so what are must-haves? Let's talk about the must-haves. Must-haves are a place to live. Basically, it's like the basic needs and necessities, okay? Utilities, insurance, transportation. Here's the caveat though. If you owe money, like you bought a couch and you're financing it, or you signed up for private tuition at a school, or anything that you've agreed to make a payment on, that's considered must-have because you have to pay that, right? You have to pay your mortgage, you have to pay your car loan, and that's also medical care, anything that basically is going to, you know, food, clothing, water, shelter kind of stuff, right? That's what the must-have category is, okay? And here's what another way to think about what qualifies. Could you live safety and in dignity without this purchase, right? If you lost your job, would you keep spending money on this? That's huge, right? Because some folks have had to actually figure out what is important to them during the pandemic where they may have lost income. And then the other piece is, can you live without this purchase for 6 months, right? So, you know, is a new couch a must-have? You know, that's actually a personal question. It depends. If you can live without this purchase for 6 months, and you can still be safe and live with the dignity inside your home, then perhaps that is not a must-have. But if the answer is no, I really need this couch, well then in your book it might be a must-have. How are you guys doing? I'm in this silo, I can't hear anything. So, okay. We're gonna go into number 2 of the lifetime to riches, is to escape from the thinking trap, okay? All right, some of you guys may have seen this. I am going to play this video, and I'm not gonna play all of it. And let me see if you guys can actually hear it. All right, so I'm going to stop it here. It does go on a little bit longer, but what I want to know is, what is your reaction to this video? So if anybody wants to, I think you can raise your hand, but if anybody wants to come off of mute, oh, Amy Lynn, I so want to hear from you. Why, you said infuriating. I really would love to hear from you. Are you willing to unmute yourself and talk to us?
Sure. Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can.
Hello. Hi.
Yeah.
That's infuriating because he doesn't work for that wealth. Like, he does nothing and he gets all of that money, where yet I am busting my ass day after day for my entire life since I've been able to work at the age of 15, and will until I physically can work well into my 70s probably. Won't come anywhere near that. It's so unfair. It makes me so angry.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you sharing. Who else? Anybody else want to share? Anybody else have a different opinion?
Hi, I can share. I'm just like, wow, how does that happen? I mean, yeah, I'm like, I don't even have like a quarter of a grain of rice compared to what he has. Business savvy, is that it? Like, yeah, I just feel like there's it's a lot more than, I say it's making a deal with the devil, but I could be wrong.
I agree. And I'm going to jump back into, I feel like he's gaining his wealth off of the backs of other people. And it's just, makes me so mad. Okay, I'll be quiet now.
All right. Anybody else want to chime in?
Can I just chime in?
Sure.
I think I agree that he's making money off the backs of other people, but I think the way, and I'm not good at this, but I think the way you really make money is investing, not working. That's what I gleaned from that.
Awesome. There is no right or wrong. This whole exercise is to know what your reaction is. I want you to know what physically is happening inside of your body because this is super important to your mindset, and I'm going to tell you what is going on inside of you, okay? So there is no right or wrong. It is, okay? But here's what you need to know. There's different levels of personality, and this is big in what it does to us, okay? So the first thing at the core, your personality is your values, okay? So we have values. Now, what I just heard from some of you guys was I got a glimpse of your values because of your reaction to the amount of wealth that someone else has. There were some glimpses of what your values may be, okay? So here's the deal. If you have positive values, such as love, compassion, generosity, then you will believe that people in your world are deserving of these values, and you will treat them accordingly. Your beliefs, in turn, affect your values. In turn, are feed into your beliefs. Okay, so your beliefs and your values are just so tightly interrelated that it's almost hard sometimes to differentiate what is my value versus what is a belief. But your beliefs come from your values, okay? And then in turn, your beliefs determine your expectation, okay? So how many times have you guys had an expectation of something and it didn't turn out the way you wanted? Well, it affected your attitude. So for instance, here's one of my things, is if you get in your car and you expect to be stuck in traffic, your attitude usually is, okay, I'm stuck in traffic. But if you have an expectation that you're running late and you need to get there in less than, early, and you don't know that there's going to be traffic because your expectation is that there will not be traffic, then usually what is your attitude? This traffic, and you're upset and you're just frustrated. And that's because you had an expectation and it affected your attitude. All right, so your attitude is your outward manifestation, or it's the reflection of your values, your beliefs, and your expectations, okay? So this is where, depending on if you value, is good, right? You expect that if you value yourself as someone to be good, then you expect good things to happen to you. And as a result, you're going to have a positive mental attitude towards other people. And you also be more cheerful and positive. And then, so your attitudes then affect your actions, okay? So this is super important because when you think about money mindset, you have to go back to your values and your beliefs, okay? So here's the thing. Some of you have expressed some of this stuff. If you believe that you will never obtain anywhere close to Jeff Bezos' wealth, then you're going to have the expectation, I will never be able to acquire that much wealth. Your attitude, which is what you think, that monkey mind brain, is going to keep telling you that, and therefore you are not going to take any action that's going to be out of alignment with what you think, your attitude, and what you expect. What are you guys thinking here? There's a lot of research on this. Yes, Nancy, absolutely. And that would be cool to post that as well, okay? So here's the other piece of that, is that you are the very happiest when you are doing on the outside, it's congruent with your values on the inside, okay? And that is where we are going to always strive for that. Aristotle said that the ultimate aim or purpose of human life is to achieve your own happiness. And this is true. When you're in alignment, in complete alignment with what you consider to be good and right and true, you will automatically feel happy and positive about yourself and your world, okay? So your goals have to be congruent with your values, and your values have to be congruent with your goals. And this is where you have to clarify your value, because that's the starting point, okay? This means you have to think through what is really important to me, okay? And then you will organize your life around these values, okay? On the flip side, if you attempt to live on the outside in a manner that contradicts with the values you hold on the inside, that's when you feel stress, negativity, unhappiness, pessimism, and sometimes anger and frustration. So if you had a reaction to that video, that it was this tension and this negativity, then that's where I invite you to sit with yourself and go back and ask, what is my belief and what are my values, especially around money, because it's so stinking powerful. So here's some 7 money myths, and this is another book that I read a lot of books. Like literally, I have a stack of books that, right in front of my desk. But this is another book. Her name is Julie Carnes, and it's the Abundance Code, and it's 7 money myths, and I'm going to outline those here. There's various other authors who have talked about different money myths around here. But if you hold any of these beliefs, this is where you go back and check your values and your beliefs. Do you believe that money is scarce? Money doesn't grow. We all heard that. Like if you go back and think about stuff you heard as a kid, you know, where you ask your parents for something and they say, money doesn't grow on trees. Where do you think it comes from? And the answer is no, right? Okay, it's a myth. This is not true. Money is not scarce. It really isn't. It may be scarce in your world because you have that belief, which affects your expectations and your attitudes, and then you act in accordance with all of those feelings. How about this one? Time is money. Time is money. No, I used to think that too. No, it's not. And I don't remember who mentioned it here, but it's called passive income. And that is the way in which our children are going to learn how to live, is how can I make money without me being present, okay? I have friends who are like, oh man, I took a vacation and I came back and I had 5,000 emails in my inbox. And I'm like, I never want to be needed that much because I want to disappear and not have to work and still make money. So time is money is a fallacy, because people who are Jeff Bezos, there's no way that if time equals money, that the millionaires in this world would ever have enough time to acquire the amount of money that they actually have. So it is not true. How about this? You have to work hard for your money, right? If it doesn't hurt, then it must not be worth it. You know, I have to work a lot, and the work has to be hard in order for me to earn the money. That is a core belief that you have to go back and sit with and actually acknowledge in yourself. It takes money to make money. No, that is not true. There are countless stories of people who were extremely poor, in poverty, homeless, and who worked their way to riches. So it does not take money. I will grant you that it is easier if you have money. And Caitlin and I agree that there's some structural obstacles that do create financial realities, right? That thinking positively won't overcome, but thinking positively and going back to the core and beliefs will allow you to change your attitudes, which then affects your actions. Easy come, easy go, money in and money out. This is another belief. This is where, you hear about people who won the lottery and they have millions, and then all of a sudden they don't have millions. What happened? I guarantee you it is something in their core beliefs that wasn't in line with them. And they basically said, I have to get in alignment with my core. Remember, we talked about that. Like, if it's not in alignment, if I'm not congruent with my beliefs, then I'm going to figure out a way to destroy it. I am going to, and this lady, Julie, talked about coming into money, not once, but twice. Had this belief And so you find a way to get rid of it. So money won't make you happy. And that is true. Money does not make you unhappy. That's a hard one, okay? But if money doesn't make you happy, then not having money doesn't make you unhappy, okay? It is the opportunity and what you do with money. That's what matters. It's all about how you use it. All right, this is a big one. Money corrupts you. Oh, it's the root of all evil. If you believe this on any level, I guarantee you, you will never acquire money. You will never be successful because you are going to basically say, I don't want to be a corrupt person, therefore I cannot have money. If money corrupts you, I don't want to be corrupt, therefore I cannot have money. And you will, it's a subconscious thing, and you will have opportunities that come to you and you will figure out ways of sabotaging yourself. All right. How are we doing? Yep. Still hanging with me? We're an hour into this. We only have an hour left. Is that right? 3 hours left? I don't know.
And I do think, Sandie, and I hope, this is Sarah, by the way, hopefully we have time left at the end of this session, because I think like going through the money myths slide, right?
I don't know if it's me, but you're breaking up. Sarah, you have hit the matrix. You have gone to the bandwidth gremlins have got you. Yes. Okay, you can put it in the chat and I will read that in a moment. So here's something that you guys can do. So one of the things, I enjoy having these conversations, and I had to work through this. Like, this journey for me is not over. It's not going to be over, and we're not all perfect. And there are days where I wake up and I do believe some of these money myths. And then I listen to things that are positive and I rejuvenate and feed my soul. And I go, okay, I can totally do this, right? So one of the things I like to do, and I've thought about doing, is forming a circle, a very small coaching group that we can meet to be a support system. And in that, we would do exercises like this where we dig deeper into this. But yes, we will have to come back to the money myths discussion and the Q&A. But if anybody needs to join in something, we can totally do that. So one of the ways that you can do this, there's another book. There's a couple of more books, and I will put all these in the little list so you guys can have all the authors, okay? So there's a book called The Energy of Money, and this is a great book. This is what my son calls hippie woo-woo, and yes, I'm hippie woo-woo, but it's a great book, and it's very true. And then there is another book called Your Money or Your Life, and this is another great book. So these two books, some of these have exercises. And one of the exercises is to tell you the story of your life. This is a journaling exercise, something you can do in your own time, but there's about 18 different prompts that I can give you. But basically, when was the first time you learned about money? Like, I'm talking about really think back to like your earliest childhood memory of money, because it had to come in childhood. If anybody wants to share in chat or come off of mute, you can. And I will get the book. So when was it and what was it? Like, what do you remember the story? Like, what were the circumstances? Like, who was there? What was happening? What was your feeling? What like, you basically will want to, you know, if I could hypnotize you and go back to that time period, right?
I have one, Sandie. This is Kirsten.
Hi, Kirsten, go ahead.
Yeah, so this happened twice in fast succession, that I was playing with neighborhood kids and then I was in art class, and this has gotta be first grade. right around kindergarten, first grade. And I had shared a story because I'd heard apparently my parents talking about my dad's salary, and I had shared what my dad's salary was. I said something like, oh yeah, my dad makes 30,000 or whatever I said. And the kids didn't react. The art teacher did. I remember that. And then the neighborhood parents reacted. And then I got a scolding at home. We do not talk about our money. And so I thought that meant we're so poor, we don't talk about our money. But actually, later I figured out it was actually because we were living in farmland, but my dad was an intellectual, had been a professor at UC Santa Barbara. We actually made a lot more than they did, but we seemed less hardworking because we weren't farming the land, but we lived among, right, that's all we lived around. So there's like so many mixed messages of shame there that I was just like, so shut my mouth, and what do I know? I don't know anything.
Oh, there's definitely some things to unpack in that. And these things, the reason I want you guys to go back to that first money memory is because there's a lot. So two things. One, children and beliefs. By the age of 4 is when children solidify their beliefs, like literally a child, okay? So you have up until about age 4 to influence a human being in how they think, and then a lot of the stuff is solidified. And we all now know, going through this little discussion here, it's kind of hard to go back and rewire your beliefs in your brain because it is kind of hardwired in there. So going back and listening to these first stories is going to give you some insight in how you approach money. And there's no right or wrong way to approach money. That's why it's called personal finance. But it is about going back and being complete. I talk about being conscious. If the one thing you take away from this is that I would really love for you, instead of being dictated by other circumstances, to actually design your finances and design your own choices, right? And make your choices consciously instead of unconsciously. So this exercise is part of that. And Kristen, you've talked about a lot of different things, the shame associated with it. We'll talk a little bit later, but talking about money is taboo. And hello, women are notorious for this. Here's the thing, ladies, we don't talk about our salaries, and that is not a good thing for us. Because, man, I can still remember going back to Dell for the second time, and I was going back with 3 other coworkers. We were working together, and we were all recruited to come into Dell. And I remember talking to another female coworker about the salary they offered, and I remember getting on the phone with HR, and I was like, hey, you offered this person this much, so I want that much. And literally the HR person said, that is against our policies to talk about the money with other people. And I'm like, the heck it is. By the way, there's some states like California, people, when you're applying for a job, they cannot legally ask you how much you make. It is against state law, not here in Texas. So we don't talk about money. It's taboo, but we should, okay, because that's how we're going to move the bar. And women are notorious for not talking about it. And men don't have a problem of going in and asking for a heck of a lot more stuff. So this story, going back, you basically, it's a chance for you, and I actually recommend that you journal about this. So what were your family's financial circumstances when you were born, if you knew that? When did you first learn about money? How old were you? Did you have an allowance? Did you have to work for it? Was it given to you? Like I've seen some folks who are like little entrepreneurs already at age 6, charging parents to do chores. That's awesome, right? If you have children now, how does your own past experience with allowances affect how you handle allowances with your kids? When was the first time that you had enough money to buy something on your own, like money you saved? And where were you? And what did you buy? And did you earn it, or was it like grandma gave it to you and you saved it up? How about this? Do you remember your first paycheck? Like a lot of people will frame that first dollar. How did you earn that first paycheck or dollar? And how much was it? And what did you do with it? All of these things are going to help you figure out your money life in your history. And there's going to be some super good nuggets with that. And this, again, is a whole, we could have a whole 2-hour discussion and break this stuff down, right? But the first part is to just think about your money life, and know how it affects you today. One of my earliest memories affects me still to this day, and it was my parents sitting at the kitchen table, apparently balancing the checkbook. And I grew up where my dad worked and my mom did not, and my mom handled the finances from what I gleaned from the situation. I maybe was 6 or 7. I don't exactly remember, but I do remember this. They were not arguing as in like an awful fight, but there was some disagreement. And I remember thinking in my mind, I will never, ever depend on somebody else for money. And that's what at that age, like literally that's what happened to me. And I pretty much carried that throughout my life. I didn't want to depend on anybody because I didn't want to argue with anybody over money or have a disagreement. And that's what I took away from that. I didn't take away that we were poor or not poor. I had no clue. I just knew that I just didn't want to argue with anybody over stinking money. So, okay, so how are you guys doing? We're an hour in. Is this beneficial? You guys, is this good stuff? I hope so. All right. Okay. So I think we covered this, but you are the happiest when what you are doing on the outside is congruent with the values on the inside. And okay, so now here we're going to talk about there's a whole nother. I listen to a ton of podcasts too. So there's Frost Bank in conjunction with another organization created these habits of financial optimists, because if you're optimistic about money, and how do you become optimistic about money? That's also a way to gain financial freedom or just move the needle in the positive direction. So the first thing is there's 3 habits of a financial optimist. So the first thing is to take the taboo out of money. And what does that mean? So the first thing it means to get smarter. Okay. So this, I would say you guys are all getting smarter because you're in this session and you attend Sarah's group, which is exactly what you do, right? So so yeah, I love the Choose FI podcast. And for those of you guys who don't know what FI is, it's financial independence. There's also the FIRE movement, which is financially independent, retire early. And so getting smarter basically says you're going to read books, you are going to podcast groups, things like that. So you're already doing these things, right? The second thing is that you can pick a money buddy. Okay. So this is something where it's a buddy that you feel comfortable with, that you can gain more comfort about talking with money, right? Women are notorious with that. I don't know if you guys, watch Friends and things, but I remember that episode where all the friends were going to celebrate Monica's something, and there was this disparity between like Rachel, who was broke, and Phoebe, who was broke, which Phoebe was like never broken on the episodes, but yet then she was broke in this episode. I don't know. And how the heck did she make all that money being a massage therapist when she never freaking went to work? I don't know. But the point of the episode was that there was this conflict because they had this fancy restaurant and there was different expectations of who would pay and how much to pay. So if you get a money buddy and you start talking about things, you can get more comfortable about these things so that when you do have to have a conversation with somebody else, it is a little bit easier. The other thing is that if you have a partner, then you should talk to your partner, talk money. And that means, like, one of the things you can do is you actually schedule a time to talk as opposed to trying to do it throughout the day. And a way to take the kind of the tension out of it, you can write down topics and then put them in a hat or what have you and draw out these things and have money conversations with your partner. So the topics can be whatever you guys want, like how much do we think we need when we retire? Hey, how much should we spend on groceries? Like just getting in, getting the conversation flowing with your partner, okay? So this is all about taking the taboo out of money, which is the way to do that is to start talking about it. Number 2 is to seek progress, not perfection, okay? So we all know that we're not going to be perfect. No one is, okay? But you figure out where you want to go and you set a few goals. And you can think of a short-term goal, a long-term goal, and then a middle-term goal. And then think about how you're going to reach these goals, okay? That's all going to move you towards progress. The second thing is to make a plan. And my budget was my plan, and my budget is constantly my plan. But the other plan I have, it can be very casual. I have a vision board for goals and dreams. So I like hit the internet and printed out pictures, and I literally cut them out, and I have a vision board, and I look at that on a daily basis, because that's going to fuel me to keep going, right? I'm progressing towards my goals. It doesn't have to be perfect. There will be setbacks, but at least you have a plan, and you have something to fuel you to keep going, okay? And then along those ways, you recognize the tiny victories, right? So you may not be perfect, but hey, you know, maybe if you want to cut back on, you know, groceries, you pack a lunch for a week, and so then you say, hey, I'm going to reward myself. But again, your reward has to be healthy and in alignment with your goals. It is not the, hey, I'm going to go buy this frivolous thing, right? Put it in your Amazon cart and wait to see if you really need it 24 hours later or want it, okay? So the 2 habits so far, you take the taboo out of money by talking about it, and 2 is these progress, not perfection, but progress. And then the third thing is to expect the unexpected. I mean, we can't predict everything. Hello, we had a stinking pandemic. We're still in the darn thing. No one expected this, but you learn from past setbacks. Okay, so what does that mean? You can take out a piece of paper and you write down, you list all the setbacks you had, and then you basically start to think about what will cause this, right? Maybe you didn't read the fine print, like my sister who signed up for freaking internet service and didn't realize that you were on the hook for a 12-month contract, and if you canceled, you still owed them all the money. What about if you really, really wanted something and you just didn't do any kind of research and you just jumped on it without really thinking about if you needed it, right? So you can learn from your past setbacks and then start saving. I mean, you guys all sounded like you have some savings. Savings is personal to everyone, but an emergency savings, 500 to 1,000, and that's for quick emergencies, like, hey, my car battery died, right? And I need to go replace that. Versus a much larger, I have 6 to 12 months of living expenses if there's thinking a pandemic and I don't have any income, right? Or whatever reason you may be without income, okay? And I think this is super important, and this is one thing that I'm really passionate about is the support system, because this can be hard. This whole money thing is not this cut and dry. It is 2 steps forward, a step backwards, 5 steps forward, maybe a step backwards. But having a support system is crucial to that, right? And that's the other reason that I am considering forming this small coaching group, so that people can get together, walk through the budget plan, get a customized budget for you that works for your situation, because there's no judgment. It's just what is right for you. And no one can tell you that. But it's definitely useful to be in a group where you can bounce ideas off other people and get an understanding of how you can improve. So that support system is super crucial. And it doesn't have to be here. You could have friends that you trust, right, that you can talk about. The biggest thing is to start talking about finances, because we don't do it. It is taboo, and it really doesn't have to be. So here's a formula, another formula for success. Like, seriously, we all know, like, people who want to lose weight, right? We all know what the steps are. Basically, you take in less calories. You know, you expend more calories than you take in, right? But we all have that knowledge. So why are we not sometimes successful? Well, the first thing is you have to have but your beliefs are off, you're just going to be frustrated. So your work may not be in gaining more money from an income perspective. It could be on reevaluating your beliefs and going back to that core of that personality. All right. How are you guys doing? I mentioned several books. I promise we will all send them out. I would type them right now, but I can't type and talk. I'm not that person. I can't multitask like that. So, so how do we break free from these thinking traps that we talked about? First thing is to identify the trap. And that was the whole thing about the reason why you go back and write your money story and you think about your values and your beliefs, because if just identifying it, if you cannot identify it, you cannot change it. Okay. So identify the trap. 2, you got to have goals, and then you need to remember them. If you don't have a goal, then you don't have a destination. There's no action steps. There's nowhere to go. And a lot of people are basically in this position where they don't have a goal, much less remember it. I constantly have goals, financial goals, personal goals, all these things. But if you don't have a financial goal and you don't remember it daily, then you're not going to be able to move towards success. Okay. And then the thing is, put up a fight, right? And so this is where your support system comes in, and you don't give up just because you've lost out, right? Like, I've had a step backwards. Nope, I'm going to keep going. There's a lot more information about how we can change behavior and habits and things that would be a whole nother discussion. Okay, how are you guys doing? Any questions so far? All right, so we kind of deterred, we went to step 2 was like the whole thinking traps, right? So step 3, back to this larger path, is to count the dollars and not the pennies, okay? So here we go. These are some things that people will tell you to do. Clip coupons. I have a sister who not only clips darn coupons, but she'll go to freaking 4 different damn stores just to save 50 cents. I'm like, what the heck? No. Like, you go for it. Like, if that's what fits you, go for it. But that's not for me, okay? Buying generic, nope. I actually buy organic, thank you much, but I can, and it's my choice, right? You may not. I've been told by my brother-in-law that I'm being duped because I buy organic. Okay, your belief, not mine. Watch out for the lattes. Again, I'm not going to tell you to do that. This is not about any of these. It's about the dollars, okay? So set a goal. So you can set a goal to cut your must-haves budget. I see the number one thing, I have a rental property, and it is so interesting when I vet new applicants, because my goodness, I mean, I literally had somebody apply, and I was like, you literally make, like, you would have $400 left over if you paid my rent. Like, you can't buy food and pay all your other utilities for $400, much less you have children. I don't know how you're going to do that. So set a goal. Setting a goal, and you establish your technique to that. And I can tell you the secret is to be super nice. The secret is just asking. I had satellite, and I wanted the NFL package. And the first year they give it to you for free. And the second year I got it for free. And the third year I got it for free. And the fourth year I called in, and the lady I was like, hi, here's the deal. I don't really like your satellite all that much, but I really love the NFL package. I'd like the NFL package for $0. And she's like, we don't give the NFL package for $0. And I'm like, well, I got it last year for $0. And she's like, blah, blah, blah. She's like, holy crap, you've had it for like 3 years. She's like, I don't know how you did that. And I was like, I asked. I just asked. are you willing to get a roommate? Can you house hack, and do you have another building? Can you Airbnb? I don't know, thinking creatively here. I don't want a roommate. I have a kid. I'm beyond those phases, but that's me personally. You know, do you have 2 cars and you really only need 1? Can you, you know, are you taking advantage of FSAs or health savings account? Have you shopped around for childcare? You know, all these different things where you can cut a little. Yeah, there's some good stuff in the chat too about changing insurance companies and not paying late fees. I just actually, I had a cell phone call. I'm in a book club, and I called Canada. I didn't know the lady lived in Canada. And I got my phone bill. It was like $85 like in charges. And I called and I was like, hey, will you refund this? And I mean, I was on hold for a little bit, but I got all of it refunded. Terry, library books are great. And I realized that about a year ago, that I didn't have to actually buy all these books and that I could go to the library, because I totally forgot about that resource. And so that's an excellent way. Okay, so we're still counting these dollars. So this is where, if you really still need to widen the gap between what you bring in and what goes out in expenses, then you can consider increasing your salary, downsizing your house, things like that. So there's other bigger life decisions that you can make, right? So, all right, how are we doing here? Are you guys good? Any questions? Covering a lot. Okay. Step 4. This is all about wants. If you can't afford fun, you cannot afford your life. It is so true. Okay, control over one's money. It isn't about what you spend. It's about how you spend, okay? So it's really about how often do you spend. We don't really care what you spend, because your wants money is yours. You can take all of your wants money and go like buy a whole lot of ice cream. I don't know, whatever you want to do, right? You can spend it on experiences. You can do whatever you want. But it's about spending within that budget, within that percentage. And remember, your want is 30% of your take-home pay, okay? Okay. So when you are looking at affording your fun life, right, you have to set a clear limit. So how much do you have for fun, okay? You have to, if you have to, you have to shift to cash, which is really hard during a pandemic, because now most people don't take cash. But I have a potential answer to that. I don't really, and that is to have multiple accounts, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, if you have to, shifting to cash so that you definitely control your spending. Okay. So I know we're at 3:50 and we end at 4:30. I want to make sure we have time for questions, and then pop into this Excel spreadsheet. So any questions? Okay. So step 5 is about paying off your debt. Okay. So you have to pay off your past in order to move into your future. So if you have debt, this is the most important investment that you can make. And there are so many different ways to tackle any kind of debt you have. There is that healthy debt, like a mortgage, versus the unsecured credit card debt, which is the least favorable, right? But you basically want to pay off your debt, or make a plan to pay off the debt. So the first thing you do is you have to stop the leaks. Okay, understand why you got into debt in the first place. If you're carrying a balance on a credit card, is it because your money is out of balance? There are some times where, like, my sister just made a move and it cost her a little bit more money, and she was like, look, I'm just going to have these increased expenses for this brief period of time. But understanding that there was a frame of time and that we're going to stop the leaks after this period, right? Add it all up. Okay, if you're in debt, then you have to add it up. You've got to write it down. I occasionally get a call from my niece who tells me, I don't know what to do. I have all these bills. And I said, well, I don't know what to do either, because you need to write it all down. Like, the first thing I need you to do is write down every bill, every balance, and how much is the interest rate, and and who you owe it to, right? And that's part of budgeting. And that's part, if I do this coaching thing or get into this group, the support group, we would go through and work together to actually do all of this. Because it is hard. And most people are like, blah, blah, I don't, that whole stick your fingers in your ears and cover your eyes and say, I don't really want to know. But you got to do it, right? So you have to create your personal repayment plan, okay? And again, this is where you have the various different methods of doing that. There's not a one size fits all. Some people want to pay off the lowest amount to get rid of it. Some people want to tackle the highest interest charge. Whatever you have, if you have any kind of personal debt, then you need to create a repayment plan. Okay, so now we've gone through 5 steps here, and now we're at the point where you can build your dreams a little at a time. So we talked about this, where you have an emergency fund, right? And this is for the quick fixes. This is not the lifelong 6-month emergency fund. This is for the, oh crap, the battery in my car died, or something went out on the AC and it cost less than $1,000. Good luck with that if that's the case, but that it costs less than $1,000, but something like that, right? Then the next step is to pay off your steal from tomorrow debt, right? If you haven't heard the term opportunity cost, then that's what basically your debt's doing, right? You are losing the opportunity to take those dollars that you have in debt and do something with them, like invest them, that they can return a bigger profit for you. Stage 3 is to build a 6-month security fund. So once you've saved at least $1,000 and you're starting, at least you have a payment plan, or you have already paid off debt, then you start to build a security fund. And then stage 4 is more of the fun part, right? So you can save for retirement, you can pay off your house if you want to, and then this is where you basically can also say, hey, this is, I want a vacation fund, or, Disneyland fund, or Hawaii, whatever you want that to be is in the stage 4, okay? And these are, again, slowly building this stage, okay? All right, how are we doing? Any questions? So now this is where I can show you the my budget spreadsheet, but we can also take any kind of questions here before we move into that. Any questions or comments or anything?
Hey, Sandie, I have a question. This is Sarah. If I'm not in the matrix, am I in the matrix? I turned off my video.
You're good.
You're good. I can hear you.
I wrote down this question at the very beginning and wanted to get your thoughts, or the thoughts from the group. What if you can't afford something huge, like your house or your kids' education, and it's something that, like, you realize is going to be, or could be, like, kind of one of those life-changing, super painful types of changes to your budget?
Yeah, so I think that's twofold. So, like, one, if you can't afford your house, then I have actually this criteria about, should I move, right? And that's sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes it's no. So this is where it gets super personal, right? About what is going on in your life and what is important to you. Because at the end of the day, it's all about, like, you have dollars coming in, and every dollar has a job, and it's whether what you need to pay for or you want is important enough to where you assign that dollar to that task, right? So, like, paying for your child's education, that's also, there's things you can do to get creative with that, right? There's a lot of, whether they go to community college, things like that. But again, it's kind of hard without an actual, answering that question without a personal person to put it around. And there's no one size fits all. And sometimes there just isn't. Like, sometimes there is not an answer. Like, there is no way to be in balance. Like, life happens. especially with a lot of people last year, where it's impossible to be in balance, right? But this plan is about setting you up to where you're in balance moving forward. So when those things happen, that they are not as, that the punch isn't that hard, right? Yes, I'm a big fan. If the house is a must-have, so Melissa, you asked a question following up with Sarah. A house is a must-have. A mansion is not a must-have, right? A house is a must-have, and this is where the personal finance comes in. So is it that you need a downsize? That I can't answer, because that depends on you and what you're comfortable with. Like, I know that I don't want a roommate. I don't. I mean, I could have a roommate. It's possible. I choose not to, and I'm okay with that. And you could be okay with your choices like that, right? So yes, a house, yes. A car in Austin, Texas, I mean, really, I mean, we're not New York. A car is probably a must-have, right? I mean, it's those things. If you have, like, internet I would consider internet a must-have. There's no way you can function in today's society without freaking internet, right? I mean, you can't even have passive income without the internet. So there's some things that, I mean, but so this budget is not it's kind of a framework, and I don't even follow it 100% throughout the calendar year. And I'll show you that in the spreadsheet. Can you guys see this Excel spreadsheet here? Okay, so this is the framework of my spreadsheet, okay? And this is the one reason I love Excel, is because it's so stinking readily available. Almost everyone has it, okay? I am this type A-ish type personality where I love this. The reason I love this spreadsheet, there's so many reasons, okay? But the biggest one is that once you start populating these things, okay, we have the date in which you get paid. You have the amount of income in that paycheck. If you get reimbursed for anything, child support, your company gives you money because you spent something, whatever you consider as reimbursement. Any interest that the account earns, because this follows my checking, my main checking account. And that totals here. And then we have the must-have. And then you can list out all these different categories, is very specific to you, but it rolls up into this entire total must-have. And then I actually have my score. So it literally takes my paycheck and divides it, right? So it's based off of this number of take home. So like right now, if this hypothetical person made $2,200 in this time period and literally only spent $750, then they would be at 34%. You're doing pretty damn good, which must have at 34%, okay? But I'm just gonna break down this spreadsheet. So then you have your savings, and you want to build up your emergency $1,000 fund. You can have another security fund. You can have a dream fund. I can tell you that my personal spreadsheet, I think I have like 6 line items in savings. So I chop up my savings into whatever you want, okay? And then we move into the wants, okay? So you have cash, if you ever like pulled out cash, cell phones, cable, TV, Netflix, the gym, pet expenses. And again, there's not a, you get to decide what you categorize things. But no, if you were to say, look, my pets are must-have, well, then you just have to make sure that you have 50% available. Like, that's the key. Because if you are spending more than 50% on your must-have, then I can guarantee you're not saving 20%. And then if you are saving 20%, you definitely aren't spending 30% on just fun want stuff. All right. So there's balance. Again, is there times where you're going to be out of balance? Sure. I mean, not every paycheck period may be exactly perfect, and that's okay. It's up to you to say, you know what, I recognize I'm out of balance, and I'm okay with that right now. But the same thing happens here. We roll up all of this, and my current spreadsheet is it gets a little bit more fancy. I've got a lot of stuff going in there. I use credit cards so I can get points, and I have a system of basically being able to roll up to credit cards and things like that. And if you anybody wanted to join a group with me, then we would totally go into but basically I could figure this is because this template's a little bit old, but it basically auto sums. I love that. I love that I can then just pop in here and be like, hey, I spent that much on housing, right? And you can literally go down the block and just see how much money you spent, okay? This was really useful for me. Like I have solar panels, and one of the questions, they were like, well, how much do you spend on utilities? And I was like, well, let me pull up my spreadsheet and go look at this column. Boom, done, right? Wasn't perfect because my gas and everything, you know, there's a little bit mixed in, but at least I knew, okay? Here's the other reason I like this spreadsheet. I populate this stuff, electric bill, okay? So I will populate this. I'm just gonna go in here and make up some numbers, okay? So I have this populated. At the end of the year, I literally come down here, I duplicate, and I basically go change the date. But I have the framework. These are still kind of the same pay period. And another reason I love this is because when I open my current spreadsheet and I go, hey, it's this time of year and this is, I'm about, you know, like, hey, I'm about to pay this electric bill because it's due between this date and this date. And I go, and I get my current bill and I go, whoa, my current bill is $175. And my last year at this time, it was $125. And I go, whoa, red flag, what the heck's going on? So I love this spreadsheet because it allows me to see what I paid last year about that same time. And then I can be alerted to, hey, maybe something's not right. Or did you spend, you know, what did you, you know, did you use more electricity? Like what happened, right? Yeah, no, solar panels are worth it depending on the energy you use. And there's a fallacy. No, I don't have a backup generator. When we had the freeze, I didn't have electricity like everybody else for days. And so didn't help in that aspect. But I don't pay for electricity most months from solar for that. So then the other reason I like this spreadsheet is, let's just say that I'm going to put in, I don't know, something big. Okay, let's just say that I want to spend, I'm going to actually, when I'm on my wish list is being backup generator because of the freaking storms. So let's just say that I go in and buy this $1,200 freaking generator, okay? So this is why I love this spreadsheet. I am a visual person, and we most need visual cues. And when I have the desire to overspend, I can literally pop this in and go, oh, look at that. I'm in the red. And look, if I take this back, look at this value right here. Look at next month's pay. Okay, I'm going to go back and put $1,200. Oh man, I don't have as much left. This aggregates all throughout the year. So literally what I do when especially if I'm feeling like I need a pick me up, I'll go in and be like, hey, what if I made like $5,000? What if I did that? Like, what would that look like? And I come down here, like this value is so big, you can't even see it. Oh my goodness, look how much money I would have. So I literally can see how much, what today's actions do to tomorrow, the next budget period, and the next budget period. So I can see out. I can see the entire year because I do it by year, okay? And that's another reason I love this spreadsheet, okay? Okay, checking in. How are you guys doing? Have I lost anybody? Anybody bored and ran away? Oh my goodness, spreadsheets and numbers.
Can I ask a really practical question?
Absolutely.
I don't understand. So do you put the information in bi-weekly? Like, do you save all your receipts for all your groceries and all your cat food? And gas and then total it up and put it in every 2 weeks?
Well, yes and no. I will tell you, so to answer that question, normally all of this is, I'm just going to populate this with some random values in here. So what I do for food and gas is I have a set monthly food and car gas budget that I just dictate for myself. And this gets, it's the same across all my pay periods, okay? And so what I do is I know that I have $400 that I can spend in food. Now this is where this spreadsheet can get all kinds of fancy, because this is kind of what I actually do now, is I have this spreadsheet actually total up. So like if my budget is, I do, all right, bear with me. I'm going to get this. Okay, $400. 400 minus, okay. So here's what I do. I know that my budget is going to be $400, and I didn't even get this right. So I have to go back and I have my own spreadsheet, but anyway, so it's $400, and then I come in and I actually I spend money on food, and I come in and I don't do it. I do not keep all my receipts and wait for like 2 weeks to pass. I can't do that. I pretty much keep up with it almost daily sometimes. Now, sometimes I'll get busy at work and it's like four or 5 days have passed, but I usually don't go more than a week. I buy my groceries through HEB curbside. It's freaking in my inbox. I open my email and I go, hey, look, I spent 100 and, I spent that much money on groceries. Okay. So I just did an equal sign. And then I spent that money, and then I go back again because this is like a 2-week pay period, right? So then you spent, some more money, and I do this calculation, okay? Now here's something else that I do. I color code this thing. So when it is a month and I haven't paid anything, I come in here and I have everything a set color. And when I spend the money, or when I actually pay for it, like if this has been charged, then I color it blue. Okay, because I put this on a credit card. And then if I actually pay the bill, then I put it in green. Okay, and then I use the comment feature in Excel, and I literally put paid March 25th, and I put the confirmation number or whatever it is, the confirmation number, and I put that in my comment. Okay, and so then I know, hey, I paid that, or I scheduled to pay it, right? And so the same thing I would do here, right? So if I did actually groceries, what I do is I basically say, I spent 100 and whatever, blah, 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 HEB curbside, and I put the date, right? And then I have another one where I come in and put whatever the amount is, and I don't know, I went to Whole Foods or something, right? And I put the date. And that's how I keep track. So then when I hover over this, I can see in my formula how much each I spent, and I can see what I, where it was at, right? Here's the other reason I like these darn comments. It's like, hey, I hired an electrician like 4 years ago. When was that, right? So I literally popped up my spreadsheet and I hit Control F, and I literally just did a search for like electrician, because I put it in my freaking notes, right? I actually did this. It wasn't for an electrician. It was actually for my car battery. My car battery did die. And I was like, darn it, this is like my 4th battery for this car. What's going on? And I was like, when did I last replace that battery? And I literally hit my spreadsheet and was like, boom, car battery. Because not only did I put that I spent something at AutoZone, I put it in the notes, car battery, right? So it is totally like a money diary. And it's super useful because I can go back and see. It's also kind of fun to go back to those early days. One, my spreadsheet wasn't as sophisticated. It's grown over the years into this hairy beast that it is, but it's manageable. But it's also cool to go back and be like, oh man, what was I spending money on? Because I can literally, like, when you get down into my wants, I actually have, again, if anybody wants to join in a group, I'm happy to form that. But I literally have like Capital One credit cards, and then I have things that roll up to it. So I literally will do this kind of thing where it's like the sum of these things, not that, it's the sum, undo, equals sum. Again, don't be intimidated. Anybody who's not familiar with Excel, don't be intimidated. I'm doing this really fast, but it's actually not as difficult. If you have the belief that you can learn it, then you can learn it. So anyway, I will do this to where I can then, it'll roll up and I can actually go in and have a credit card. And then for things that are not split out here, because this is the other thing I like this spreadsheet, I have an HOA and it happens once a quarter and it's in my must-have here, right here. And then I'm not surprised. Like I'm actually due for another HOA and it's literally in the budget and I don't have to worry about, oh my goodness, I forgot. Car registration, things that happen once a year or a couple of times a year, in my spreadsheet, already accounted for. So I love that because I'm not taken by surprise. So literally I do the comments with my credit card. So I will pull up, I do everything online, right? And so I pull up my credit cards online and I basically share, I have two things on my screen. I have my credit card statement and then I have my spreadsheet. Now the key is that you can't wait like a month to do this because, oh my goodness, over freaking whelming, right? Yeah, so you can still use Excel on a Mac. Google Sheets is one. Google Sheets is a little bit, there's a little bit different with the software as far as that. But you can use Google Sheets for sure. Same concept because it's still a spreadsheet. There are other budgeting tools out there. There's, you need a budget, YNAB. Most of those cost. Mint is another good one and popular one. Most of those cost. They all move towards a cost model. Now they only may cost you $5 or $6 a month, but it's still $5 or $6. Okay, so a lot of stuff here. I'm gonna pause and take a breath because we have like 15 minutes left. I still have more I can show you. Any questions? Comments? No, so I have spreadsheets out the wazoo. I have a whole spreadsheet for all of my my retirement savings. I can tell you every fund that I invest in, and it rolls up into what account and all this good stuff, right? And so this is definitely, I could not live without my spreadsheet because literally it's color coded. So it'll come into whatever pay period I'm in and I'll be like, oh yeah, I haven't paid that bill. Because there's some bills that I do reoccurring on my credit card and some bills that I'm like, nope. And then some bills you can't pay with credit card. But I track all of that. Okay. So I popped over to this here's an example of it actually completed. Okay. Here's the other reason I like this spreadsheet. I don't know how many people get paid monthly, but I get paid every 2 weeks. Okay. When you have a mortgage payment every stinking 2 weeks, it will really throw your must-haves out of whack, right? So if this example, this person is spending 85% of this take-home pay on must-haves, whereas this is only 19%. When I first started doing this, I actually saw the imbalances and I literally picked up the phone and started calling people and I said, hey, can I change the due date for this? Can I change the due date for this? And I spread the love between my two paychecks because that helped me get this imbalance. Okay. The other thing that I did is I called my mortgage company and I said, I need to pay this bi-weekly. You can't set that up online. They don't have a way to do that. So I called my mortgage company and I basically said, I need to pay my mortgage every 2 weeks. Now, a caveat, it is not actually a paid, so they will siphon the money out, half of it, and they just keep it. And then they siphon the second half and then they make a payment. I'm not making extra payments. I'm not getting that benefit of paying half of it without having to pay interest. They hold it until they make a whole payment. But you know what? It's automated and it's worth it. That is the other key to this is automation. If you can automate stuff, then it's going to take out a lot of the complexity. Yes, you can absolutely change the headers, and that's again is where it would be coming for you to make it custom for you, right? So definitely absolutely can get, this whole spreadsheet can be customized to whatever it fits your life, right? The basic and the framework is there, and then I made it fit me. The key is that the spreadsheet, even, so there's some folks who, one of my sister, I have two sisters, and one of my sisters is like, oh, I really need a budget, but I hate it. And I've tried to get her many times to do this spreadsheet, and she's just like, I can't, like, I can't. And it's just not working for her. And I'm like, she's like, I just want paper, right? I just want to write it down on paper. And I'm like, whatever works for you. But most of the time, she just doesn't know what's going on. So the other thing is, if you automate your finances, then that is also a way to keep you in check, okay? And when I say automate, here's something, this is another tab, and yet I have many tabs in my spreadsheet. But this is another tab just for savings. So I literally track my emergency saving, my dream savings, and I will name these. Remember, every dollar has a job. And so I will put down literally, if this is for, you know, saving for the Hawaii trip, or saving for whatever, like I want a new couch, or I need a new car, or whatever you want. So you can break it down. It can get hairy, but I can tell you this much. I have, I don't know, 6 freaking savings accounts, 6 or 7. Back in the day, you used to be able to do sub accounts so that you can actually have a savings account where it's sub out and you can actually earmark it. They don't really do that anymore. You just get another account number for it, but I'm okay with that. Whatever. I have it split. I have a tuition account, savings account for my kiddo. I have a donations account. So every time I get a bonus at work or I get a surplus of money, I basically take a percentage of that funds and I put it into a donation account. And then when I want to make a donation to people, like I don't have to worry about where the heck that money's coming from. I already have a pool of money that I'm just, or what, $50 or 200 or whatever is in that account. And then I can divvy it up however I want. But it works because I can donate without the pressure of it hitting my weekly budget or biweekly budget. So many different good things come from that. I do have a lot of things automated directly from my payroll. And so I own my house and I do my own escrow. So I pay my own taxes and insurance. And I automatically, the way I approach that is every year I guess how much my taxes is going to be, and I account for them going up by you know, $300, $600 or whatever I want to guess they're going to go up. I do the same thing for my homeowner's insurance. I add those values together. I divide by 12, and then I get my monthly, or I can divide by 24, which would be bi-monthly. And then that's how much I save per paycheck. And I literally go to HR in the tool and basically say, send this much money to a savings account that's marked as escrow. And so that automatically gets put there. Are welcome to contact me. I will send out the PowerPoint deck, and then I will also include this spreadsheet so that you guys, if you want to do it on your own, go for it. And if you want to get together and band with a group of ladies to do a support system, then let me know that as well. Is there any other, I know we're at 4:20, we have like 10 minutes. Is there any questions or comments?
If you have a
Anybody else want to see
question,
anything? Yeah.
I was just going to say, if you have a question, you can probably just unmute and ask Sandie directly. We still got a couple minutes.
Yeah, Janine.
Hi, Sandy. This has been a great presentation. Thank you. I was just wondering if, based on that 50, 30, 20 formula, if you're, I mean, housing in Austin is very expensive. And if you're single, you just have one income to pay for housing. So if your essentials, must-haves eats up more than 50% of your salary, should you get a higher paying job, or what are your recommendations for that?
Yeah, that's where the personal finance comes in. I am single myself, and I took over the house whenever I got a divorce. This was years ago, and that you pretty much have nailed your two options, Janine. You can either increase your salary or you decrease your housing expenses. Like there's no other way, right? Increasing your salary doesn't necessarily mean that it has to come from your W-2 Monday through Friday job though, right? This is where passive income, right? If you know how to sell something or have a service that you can provide, then you can do some sort of side hustle. It was literally whenever I bought this house and I realized after the first mortgage payment, I was like, oh crap. I mean, I could afford it. I just wouldn't be able to afford the rest of my life. And I knew it back then before I had a budget. And I was like, holy crap, I've got to get a better job or a job that pays more, right? And I did that very quickly. Within 2 months, I manifested that. And it was going back, it's the belief, okay? Because I was laid off in 2018 and I was laid off for the first time. And my thoughts were, hey, I'm going to consider this a success because I'm over 40 and this is the first time I'm losing my job. So I had and I kind of knew it was coming so I could mentally prepare for it. But during that year, I knew that I wanted to get another job and I wanted to work from home because I've worked from home for many, many years and I like that. But I also told myself that I wanted $20,000 more annually. Like literally, I just got laid off and my goal was to find another job that paid me $20,000 more than my other job. Like who the hell does that, right? Like why would you, like, I could say that that's egotistical, right? But no, that's what I wanted. So that's what I held. And I called people and I networked and I looked at different jobs and I actually was offered jobs that I was like, you want me to drive to South Austin? I live in North Austin. I'm not sitting in traffic. No, thank you. And like, again, you're freaking laid off. Like but my mentality was, it's going to come. I can manifest this. I can attract what I want. But I also had a deadline. And I also said, okay, if I don't get what I want with this time period, because I did have severance, that I'm going to then change, I will change my strategy. I didn't land a job. I didn't earn $20,000 more. I got a $25,000 raise.
That's great. That's great. So you'd recommend, instead of just applying for jobs, you recommend networking for jobs.
Oh my goodness, networking. You're not going to find, I actually found that job kind of cold, but networking is huge. It is so huge. You absolutely have to network. You can create the job you want as well. I have another book recommendation. It's probably in my closet over there. If you follow the Human Workplace, and her name, she's an HR person, Human Workplace. She has a really great job finding strategies and mindset and things that you can do. Because this is where we get into this, especially women will get into this mindset where it's like, these are my choices. And we literally box ourselves in and we go, oh, I can't do any of these other things. So it's not even, you don't even let yourself dream about these other things. And she helps kind of take you out of the box and let you dream bigger. Because if you can dream it, you can totally attract it. And then you have to take actions, right? So you remember, like a lot of people will say that the law of attraction and the manifestation is like, whoa, poopy, it's woo-woo junk, right? It's not. It's about changing your thoughts, right? Because if you remember, your beliefs control your expectations, controls your attitudes, which controls your actions. And it's that action part that's so important.
I agree with that. So is it Tony Robbins that you got the manifest attract from, or a different writer or speaker?
So Napoleon Hill's book Think and Grow Rich is the beginning of the manifestation. It's like the beginning of The Secret. Like, you can read the book The Secret, you can watch the movie The Secret. The Millionaire Next Door. There's a bunch of different titles that all go towards manifesting. But I can tell you that the core of manifesting is your beliefs. Because if you do not have that, if you remember the slide that says burning desire plus the beliefs plus the knowledge is success. If you don't have one of those three, then you're not going to have the outcome you're looking for. So you have to have a burning desire. I really, really want to increase my salary, for example, if that's your goal. And that you believe you deserve it, you should have it. Like, if there's something inside of you that you don't think you deserve it, you shouldn't have it, or you're going to be corrupt, or you're just not going to be a good person if you make that much money, then you're never going to obtain it. You're going to find a way to sabotage yourself. Does that help you?
It does. And what was the third? The desire, the belief, and what was the third thing?
Knowledge.
Knowledge.
So most of us have the knowledge. It's the burning desire and the lack of belief.
Well, it kind of helps to have a support group to reinforce these manifestation and law of attraction ideas. Do you have recommendations for that?
As far as books, is that what you said?
Well, no, just I mean, I was in last summer I joined a group where that was one of the core principles, and the leader of the group had taken a Tony Robbins course. But I would probably, continue to take the class, but it's getting more expensive. As the class improved, I jumped in pretty early, and it was, pretty affordable. But now that the leader's getting more popular, he's raising the price. And so so how do you sort of, if you're single and you don't have someone, I mean, I think you talked about having an accountability partner, or that group did. If you didn't grow up with that kind of mindset, and I'm a lawyer, and lawyers are very skeptical and doubters, and it's just not in my mindset to have these kind of big ideas like I'm going to go to Hawaii for 2 weeks. It's kind of like, I'm going to do my job and be responsible. But it's hard to mindset when you're just trying to pay the bills every day.
So I think the answer to that is to surround yourself with all of the positive people. I don't know if you guys heard the expression, but you are the sum of the average of the 5 people you hang around with. So who are the 5 people you mix up with daily or weekly, and are they of a poor mindset or a expansion mindset? What is their mindset? Because that is going to positively influence you. And if you don't have 5 friends in your life like that, this is where I listen to podcasts. I'm part of a book club that's pretty darn amazing, and we dream super big, and we read books and we talk about it. And that's not terribly expensive. It's like $35 a month. So between podcasts and books and just real people in your life, that's the other reason that I'm like contemplating. Sarah and I've had this talk about how I can get a group off the ground, and it's for these things to basically be that positive support system on a weekly basis. And we wouldn't meet it would be a shorter period of time. But that's where you would just need to associate with other people and keep reinforcing those positive thoughts, right? If you can't do it yourself, you have to feed yourself. So you create your own pipeline of what you can put around you to remind you of all the positiveness. Like, for instance, whenever when I had my son, I remember watching the evening news, and my thoughts just went all negative. And in that moment, I realized I can't watch the news anymore. Like, I'm just not going to watch it. Like, I'm not going to feel it. And I constantly tell my son, you are absorbing everything that you put in front of your eyes, within your ears, what you touch. That is all going into your psyche. So you have to analyze, what is it in your world? If you look around in your physical environment and you have things that are not, like, this can get into a whole nother discussion about, like, you know, just things cluttering your space, clutters your mind. So you really want to look at and analyze your life in all different directions. I know that we're like at the time, but
I appreciate it.
Sandie, do you have a minute
yeah.
for one more? Do you have a minute for one more question? I know we're
Yeah,
over.
I'm fine sticking around.
Okay, awesome. So Melissa wanted to ask, and she didn't have a microphone. And she just said, so with the balanced approach, you would never spend 60, 20, 20. The idea is to cut costs to meet the 50, 30, 20. Does that make sense? The question?
Yeah.
Like it's fiddling with the ratio.
Right. The ratio is your guardrails. Okay. If you choose not to follow the guardrails, then that is your choice, right? If you want to say that I'm not going to spend, I'm going to sacrifice 30% of my want, I'm going to sacrifice, 5% of that, that's your choice. But the balance is there because what you want to do is you don't want to take away too much of your fun money, your want, because then you're not going to sustain being able to stick to the plan, right? There are months that I do go over, like there's months that my must-haves are rate is freaking 40% because I'm saving for something, right? And it's just it's a choice in that moment. So, yeah. So there's no, I don't want to, like there's no, I'm at the bottom of it all. We're human beings. Oh my goodness, we're humans. We have feelings. We're complex people. And so there's not a one size fits all, but there is that balance between discipline and the framework. And when you're doing it in the beginning, I recommend you stick to it and that is your goal, right? 50% must have. I mean, good gracious, you're not going to be able to be like, oh, look, I attended this freaking discussion and tomorrow I have 50% must haves, right? Not going to happen. But you can like you say, this is a goal. I have a goal and my goal is to get my must haves to 50%. And then you basically say, okay, what can I realistically, can I do that in 3 months? Can I do it in 6 months? How long will it take me? And you give yourself, you put a framework, you put a goal around it, and then remind yourself every day what your goal is, but more importantly, remind yourself that that goal is attainable. Like it is possible. You can totally do it.
Sandie, thank you so much. This has been so valuable. People were on the call and hung on the call for the whole 2 hours. And so, it's good stuff when people stick around. I know there've been a lot of questions in the chat, and I'm assuming we'll get some afterwards about getting information from you and your contact info. So what I've been telling people is that we'll send that out in the follow-up email from Austin Women's Investing Group. And I think Gwen put the link to our Facebook group in there as well. I know that Sandie is active in the private Facebook group that we have too. So this has been so awesome. Thank you, Sandie, for leading us through this super challenging topic, and for everyone who asked questions, and for everyone who posted in the chat box. I know it means so much to all of us just to be able to get together. And even if we're not official money buddies, we kind of are in the Austin Women's Investing Group, right?
Yes, I'm available. I will have my contact info, and I welcome anybody because this is my geek out topic. So all good. Much love to you all. Treat yourself well. Be kind to yourself. You got this.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next month.